as a radio they shape, find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, one of her advocacy guiding you through the shadows of self discovery and growth, none other than Miss Sayen Gates.
Hi everyone,
Welcome.
how you doing?
Welcome, Miss Sayen. I'm fabulous. And thank you so much for being part of our podcast. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
So I think you spot on. My name is Sayen Gates. I am a shadow work life coach. I help people deconstruct and reconstruct how they see about themselves, their environment, and others, as well as help you to bring your authentic self to the forefront. My goal is to make make the world aware again, since we've been in this structure of hustle culture, which can lead to burnout and a lot of other things that, uh, in my opinion, seems like it shouldn't be, and it makes us offset the balancing scale. So that's pretty much it. Well, at least as far as my introduction goes.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Cyan. Thank you. And today, let's talk about uncovering the patterns that hold you back. What are the most common, almost universal behavioral or thinking patterns you see that hold otherwise talented people back?
Okay, so one of the main uh, patterns that we repeat is usually like emotional, behavioral, or relational responses, which we default to because of our unconscious, that we do unconsciously. So these things usually would come up through childhood conditioning, family dynamics, cultural expectations, trauma, and unmet needs. One example I would give you is like, say, for example, you are a chronic people pleaser. By that time, when you were a child, maybe that your only value when it came to loving, well, overgiving for you meant that you were loved, but then that also to you meant that you were useful. So sometimes we don't know when to put the cap on being the people pleaser. And it ends up being something that we later on realize ends up hurting us in the end. I can tell you from experience because as a child, I was someone that did not mind love and loving people and who they were. But on the downside, I thought the world would do the same. But when I became older, I started to realize that there's certain people that don't actually fall into that narrative as much as I would want it to be. Again, this is your 20s, you're trying to figure it out. So um, I started to realize that in some case, shape, or form, that a lot of the habits and things that I had were uh, reflected through childhood things that I had gone through, or like how I would, for example, when I was a kid, I would make sure everybody was happy all the time. When in actuality, having another emotion other than happiness, even if it doesn't, even if it's not sadness, does not mean you don't have joy in your life. It just means that you're human and that you're experiencing more different emotions than anything else. And sometimes many patterns are learned before we had a language choice, like avoidance. It usually equals like learned avoidance from conflict. Usually is tailored when you probably have been in a very active or I would say loud household where your parents argued or you're around a lot of noise and there was not much quiet for you that probably felt like danger or another emotion that you can express. So those are some patterns and examples that I can give you.
Interesting, Miss Cyan. And What does the first moment of recognition usually feel like when someone feels the pattern in action but can't yet name it? Are they a physical or emotional tells?
Um, it varies from different person to person. I had one client at one point that, for example, she felt like she was being controlled, but it seemed like something that she just coped with because that was her parent, and they were just trying to quote unquote protect her. But at this time, she was 25 years old. She had a job, she had a skill, and she was going to school. But the thing is that in her mind, it probably felt like she couldn't get out of it. So one of the things that I helped her do was to, at that time I had a whiteboard in my office. Don't have one right now. I would tell her, write three things or three subjects in your life that you wish that you could change. And then she wrote the three jobs, like her life, her career, and she said her relationships. And I said, okay, so as your sublines, which are like connective lines, it's like brainstorming, right?
Hmm.
Write down three things in each section that you feel like is stopping you from changing. And then on the last line, when it came to relationships, the one thing that she had in common to all of them was the fact that her fear of what her parent was going to say, or the fear of what her parent was going to do. So I told her to connect the lines and see where it ends. The conclusion to her, she didn't see it at first, that her parents had more of a, not a guiding hand, but a controlling hand over her life, to where she, from the way she ate all the way down to like the way that she carried her life. And if she wasn't under their roof, they still have control. So her realization came when she wrote, when I asked her to write down what solutions would you do if nothing could stop you. She wrote down on like in bold letters in one line for all three, if if I could stand up to my parents. And then I said, okay, step back, look at all this. Sometimes we don't realize the lines that we use when it comes to the problem, and we say that, oh, I don't know what's wrong. Most people that I talk to, I was like, you know what's wrong, you truly do. It's just the fact that you can't put it in words right now. So with her, by me showing her on the whiteboard, it gave her a sense of, oh, so my parents are the problem. I'm not the problem. Um, I want freedom, but I keep giving them my freedom. And then I told her, like, write down what it is that you feel is the next step for you from this point on. For some people, like me or such, we're visual learners. We don't just go by talking. Sometimes you have to actually show us what's going on. The same way you train yourself in the gym is the same way you need to train your brain and your mind and your mental thinking. You have to be able to take 5 or 10 minutes out your day to analyze and reconstruct the things that are hindering you. Because if you don't, then 9 times out of 10, you'll probably fall into a case of insomnia, stress, anxiety. Sometimes it even gets to a point where you want to take your own life. But with coaches like me and others that work in this field, we show you how to conquer these shadows by allowing yourself room to breathe and have acceptance. So I hope that answers your question.
Indeed. So, why is it difficult for us to see our recurring patterns clearly, and what is the practical first step someone can take to become a better observer of themselves, Ms. Cyan?
So sometimes it's hard to see those type of patterns or hard to change. It's because we've adapted to it so well to the point where it becomes either a cope or tolerating mechanism. So the difference between tolerating and coping. Tolerating means that you're like you say it's okay, but it's not okay to you, but you tolerate it because there's a benefactor that comes with it. Coping is like this is nothing new. This is something that happens, and I'm just trying to get through to the good part. So when we talk about these things, one of the things that you can do to change is like the nervous system prefers familiarity over growth. So if it's something easier for them to do, well, sorry, if it's easier for your brain to do, then that's what it'll lean to. And healing often feels unsafe before it feels freeing because we're so used to the normal. Like if you're a person that has lived in dysfunction for a while, and when you start finally get a sense of peace or zen, it feels foreign to you. And it sometimes feels like you're trying to figure out who this new person is or whose shoes that you stepped into. But in actuality, they're your shoes. It's just a calmer, self aware version of yourself that you didn't have permission to do. And I see this sometimes in people that have been labeled as the strong friend or the strong person in the family, and they got their head on straight. But in actuality, the silent battles that that person uh, goes through sometimes ends up being the most doubting fights of their life. Like you'll never know because they don't talk about it. That's why I tell like some of my friends, I was like, check on your strong friends because sometimes they're going through a harder battle than you are. And resistance doesn't mean that you're failing. It means you. How is the best way that I can put this? Resistance doesn't mean that you're failing when you're starting your change. It means that you're getting closer to something important, something that you need to know, something that you need to identify yourself as, or at least walking into the version of you that you didn't think could exist. So, the one thing I want your audience to know is discomfort does not mean danger. It means it's you expanding your territory so that way you can become the better version of yourself. One of the tools that you can use for breaking shame is awareness first, then choice. And what I mean by that is when you're aware of something, you have a choice of whether to change or to the best way to put it. You have a you have a option to change or you could literally stay the same. So and there's nothing wrong with that, but it does stunt your growth in the end. So awareness first. Next would be to replace your why am I like this to what do I need right now. Being able to identify, again, awareness first, that's the first step. The second step is now we're trying to reframe your thinking. So why am I like this? Instead of that, you can do what do I need right now. It puts you in the present because that why keeps us in the past. So that way we can handle it better. And I think the last one I would say is small shifts that matter more than the dramatic change. It could be as little as you taking 5 or 10 minutes out your day of breathing, or praying, or singing, or listening to music, or doing something that you love that can help you transition to a better, I would say, a better, not a better quality of life, but a better person that you were yesterday. You should always strive to be the best person after the next day. Because each day, the person you are now is not the same as the person you were then. I hope that makes sense for you.
Makes sense, Miss Science. So tell us, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My short term goal outside of doing this, I think I would like to be a voice actor. I feel like I may be able to capture different emotions because I had been through so much. So that's one, and to also write my own book eventually. Long term goals, I would like to retire my husband and I would like to retire my mom because these are the two people that have supported me through everything. And I will spoil them rotten if I haven't already done it now. And then just I think the second bit of the long term would be to make sure that I'm working with people when they need me and to be able to trying to say it the best way I know how to be able to work with people that are going to want more for themselves. And even if you don't know what more is, we can always talk about it when you see me or when you book a session with me. So um, just to be a speaker, to be an advocate for those HSPs out there that don't know how to vocalize who they are.
Well, good luck to your goals, Miss Cyan. And well, what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Um, One advice I can tell you is that healing isn't linear. It goes in different directions. You're not always gonna have up moments. You're gonna have extra low moments, but you have to be able to ride the wave balancedly by making sure that you rewrite the patterns that you cling to so much. And I think that, sorry, correction. I know that it's not easy to look at all your, I think, your celebrity mentors and feel like, wow, I want to be like them. The one thing I want you to do is be your own authentic individual. It's good to look up to these people, but at the same time, you need to be able to start pushing yourself and standing on your own two feet with a balanced mindset and being able to understand that in every aspect of your life, there's going to be a new version of you that you're going to have to reintroduce to the world. And you have to make sure that you're ready for it. And even if you're not ready for it, spirit will push you and tell you you're fine. So just go out and be great.
Thank you for that advice, Miss Cyan. And tell us, how can someone start trace frustrating present day pattern back to its likely root cause of original adaptive purpose?
Um, okay, repeat that question for me, please. I apologize.
No worries at all. No worries. So where do these limiting patterns typically originate? Are they more often born from the trauma or learned from a family behaviors or cultural conditioning?
They are usually conditioning of both
Mm.
because, like I said, through life, you're going to go through a lot of things, a lot of BS, and it's going to be things that you don't think that would happen to you, and then just ironically, they do happen to you. And you have to be able to gauge um, the best way I know in this situation is like you have to be able to gauge exactly the patterns that don't disappear overnight and how they evolve when you practice them. And ask yourself, are these things healthy? Are these things that you feel as if that you could pass down to your children? Um, One of the things that I can tell you is that The root cause of both of those conditions usually ends up from a log of shame or fear, and then sometimes we're triggered by even other people's past and traumas themselves. So one thing that you can do is make sure that number one, that you see a therapist, a cognitive behavioral therapist, because with them they will help you to recognize those patterns, and they'll also teach you how to be able to notice emotional triggers, and try not to repeat them, and to make sure that you understand where they root cause from. So I can give you an example about that if I can. Okay. So one thing that I can say on my end, perfectionism was always a thing, and that was something rooted in childhood and in trauma. So when I wanted to get all the perfect grades and wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything wrong, when I messed up, I would beat myself up and I would say that I'm worthless. That's something that I had to configure and rearrange my brain to. So that was like a notice emotional trigger. So I did also pay attention when I started to learn to heal to how my body responded to those words. Because whether we know it or not, our traumas and our childhood idiosyncrasies, they sit in our muscles, they sit in our body organs and everything else. It's energetically cleaned. And it takes us to actually go through that baggage of where it came from, why did we attach this to us, or why was this given to us, and then us allowing ourselves an opportunity not to be not to feel the shame, but to feel the emotion that's attached to it.
Hmm. Miss Zion, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my other podcast, my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season. My book 101 review is sixth season this year. Comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101 love letters. Movie 101 review, music 101 fourth season, science 101, sex 101 in third season, and my baby podcast trivia 101, law 101, Bible verses 101, and of course entrepreneurship 101 and motivation 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So if Miss Cyan, if someone could only focus dismantling one pattern to create a ripple effect of a positive change in their life, which would you recommend and why?
What positive change that they can do to affect their life positively?
Yes, please.
Okay. Um, One thing that I can tell you that you can start would be journaling. Journaling is one of those things that does not go out of style, no matter how many times someone says. By putting those down on paper, we actually give ourselves an opportunity to have a conversation with ourselves, to have a conversation with God or Spirit or whoever you pray to, and be able to start dissecting those things that does not belong to us. So that's one positive change you can do, or just try to step out of your norm. Instead of you doing one thing, going straight to the office, try taking a 5 or 10 minute walk before you go in. All these things are tiny, but they make the biggest impact in your life.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Cyan. And can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes. So I just was featured in a book called Breaking the Silence, Volume 3, where in my chapter I talked about how to be worthy still. It's on Amazon right now. So I will be giving Daniel the link at the end of the show. And then I also have an open calendar for anyone that would like to work with me. Um, this is right Zoom right now, but I am openly taking clients for my shadow work life coaching. And then also, if you are a person that struggles with taking care of your supporter or an advocate of those that have had cancer, supported those with cancer, there is a group for you called the Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer by Tim Song. I am one of the organization members, board members. So if you would like to come to our events or that's happening October in New York, I will gladly give you all the information. But other than that, those are all the things that I have for you.
Yes, people support Miss Sayen Gates because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Miss Sayen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Welcome, people. See you soon. So, Miss